What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this one, we have 10 British things America needs now. Very intrigued to see what America needs from the British. Before we dive in, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and let's get right to it.
We're Zach and Annie, a Scotsman and an American.
6 months ago, we made a huge decision, leaving everything behind in California in order to follow a new dream of raising our kids in Scotland.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about some of the things we've been reflecting on over the past 7 months since we moved to Scotland, and sort of what we've come to really enjoy about the UK that we didn't have in the US.
Yeah, New Year is a time for reflection and thinking, and we've been thinking upon all the things we're so grateful we now have, as well as things that we think we could add to the wonderful life we had in the US to make it even better.
Yeah, so we really enjoyed our life in the US. We came from California, but these 10 things that we're about to share with you would make life exponentially better over there. So let's get into it.
And these are just our opinions, so
feel free to disagree in the comments.
We can't wait to read these comments. So what is number one, Annie?
The number one thing.
The number four.
The first thing is legislation around food and safety.
Yes. So we've done a couple of grocery comparison videos, and one of the things that people have mentioned and that we've noticed is the difference in quality of food between the two countries. And a lot of that has to do with the governing bodies in both countries. So in the US, it has
the Food and Drug Administration.
Whereas in the UK, you have the Food Standards Agency, which covers England, Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. And then Food Standards Scotland, which covers Scotland. And,
from our research, what we found is that a lot of the legislation remained the same after Brexit, but there are some differences, and those governing bodies are starting to take more ownership and implement their own standards and regulations that need to be followed. But the biggest difference between what we've noticed with the US and the UK is that there are certain ingredients that are just absolutely banned and not allowed in the UK foods.
Yes. Yeah, this is one of the more sort of obvious differences and things, and one that you guys have commented on. But even so simple as taking the exact same product in both countries, like ketchup and Frosties, for example, you look on the back of those packages and the ingredients are just different. Means the taste is different and the health is different as well.
And in the UK, they lean more towards a proactive stance, whereas the US is more of a reactive stance. So if it's looking like, okay, this has a known carcinogens in, maybe down the line we're going to find out it could cause cancer, the UK just goes ahead and bans it. Whereas in the US, they wait for a little bit more data to come out. Cancer. And that's interesting to me.
Yeah, the US
Very
go
interesting.
On the side of
Very interesting.
You have to prove something isn't dangerous.
Yes.
Whereas in the UK, you have to prove that the food is safe, which
I feel that
may just sound like a difference of words, but it makes a huge difference.
It does.
Yeah.
And another thing is, if an item isn't banned, for instance, a lot of people think over here that food dye number, I think it's red 40, is banned in the UK. It's not, but when it is used in a food product, they have to have a warning label on it saying that these red dye 40 may increase signs of ADHD in children, things like that. So I found that quite interesting as well, just the difference of how they have to label certain ingredients.
Yeah. The other thing with the labeling, the way that both countries use sell by, use by, etc. dates is very different.
So in the US, sell by and use by date is almost the same thing.
It's like a suggestion.
Like you open it up,
guideline.
sniff it, look at it. Okay, I think I'll eat that.
It's only a week past, but I'm still hungry.
Fine. In the UK, it's different. So sell by date is okay, this is our suggestion of you're going to have the best quality product if you sell it by this date. Use by date is all about safety. So if you don't use a food by the use by date, the chance of it being safe to consume is decreased.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas in the US, the safety element is not. It's all about the quality or the taste. So if you're past the use by date in the US, it may still be safe, but it just won't taste its best.
Yes.
So you actually
really? I'm
don't
throwing it
really
away.
know how long you can have it and still be safe to eat
I'm
it.
throwing it away.
So another thing, we've tried doing some grocery deliveries over here, and the people that deliver our groceries here will say, oh, you have a couple of items that are sort of short shelved is what the term they use, and that means they're getting close to that sell by date or the use by date. And I just thought it was interesting because when we had our grocery deal in the US, they never mentioned that. And if it is something really close to time, you can actually get your money back or let customer service know. So there does seem to be a big emphasis on actual food safety, not just this is the best time to eat it.
Exactly. So we appreciate that over here and wish it would make its way to the US. I think it would be beneficial to everyone.
Yeah.
Facts. I feel like the use by date, I'm throwing after it passed, I'm throwing it away. I'm not eating it anymore or drinking a drink anymore after, because like, you told me when I needed to do it and I did it or I didn't, and it's that simple. But it feels like the UK food, like, I guess the way he worded it would be the same as like US is like innocent until proven guilty, where UK food standards are like guilty until proven innocent. Y'all need to prove that this food is healthy. And the US is like, we're going to let people eat it until somebody gets sick, and then we're going to jump in and say, all right, figure out what's going on, and be like, it's too dangerous. But I shout out to the UK because they're not going to let it get that far. They're going to make sure before people even consume a bite of it that it is healthy. And if they got any kind of ingredients that may not be bad but could be harmful, you got to put that warning on the label. We not allowing you to sell that in the store without that warning on the label to tell these parents and tell these kids so they can make an informed decision when buying food. In the U.S., we got all kind of dyes and carcinogens and chemicals and so much. And then when you talk about the animals, so many things that we pump them with and how they're raised in these awful conditions, and you got all this. And it's like, the UK just got a lot better food standards than us. Now, do I love US food? Yes. So much good stuff that I absolutely, my taste buds are in love with. But when it comes to health and safety, I mean, food-wise, there's no doubt about it that the UK standards are a lot more safe than US standards. It's not even a question.
I think there's a much deeper dive on that whole topic, but that is where we're going to leave it. But feel free to jump in with your experiences and your comments on that one. On to number 2, which Annie is exemplifying today in this video, and that is
tea culture.
Something I can't really speak to. I see it, I know it exists, I just don't partake. So Annie, over to you.
So in the US, I mean, people drink tea, they drink coffee, we use it as a time to gather, but not like the UK does. Tea is served all day long. No matter what, if there's people around, tea is an option.
Yeah.
And it's something that you drink when you're sad, you drink when you're happy. It always just makes the mood better. No?
Tea.
And you drink with company. So if someone comes over and you're not offering a cup of tea, it's almost rude here.
Yeah, it's just such a common thing to do. Like, oh, come on in, do you want a cup of tea? It just kind of like rolls off the tongue with, hi, welcome to my house, would you like some tea? Like,
it breaks the ice.
We've finished dinner, would you like some tea? Like Annie said, anytime, any place. We
finished lunch, would you like some
any
tea?
weather, and yeah, alone, with company, formal, informal.
After going on a walk or a hike, you go get a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So it's just a nice thing to have, and it's relaxing. I love it.
Okay, so if tea culture is such a wonderful thing, why do you think it's not embraced in the US?
I think it comes down to the pace of life in the US and more nowadays. I don't know back in the olden days how it was, but everything's about productivity these days in the US.
True.
And it's very fast paced.
True.
And tea, requires time. First off, it takes a minimum of
Requires
3
time.
minutes to brew correctly. So if you can get your coffee made in 1 minute versus your tea that you have to sit and brew, that comes down to time. And then in a work culture environment, people are just on the go in the US. It's go, go, go. No one
True.
has time to sit and to take a moment to make a cup of coffee, then enjoy a cup of coffee, talk with your colleagues. That's just not the same as it is here. And then
thought maybe there was some historical relevance. But
there
we'll
is a
skip over that.
historical relevance.
I guess I'd agree because a lot of the time in the US, your coffee, whether you're sitting at home or not, is in like a travel cup or to-go cup.
Yes.
Whereas, yes, cafes here will serve tea to go, but typically you're drinking tea out of a teacup, and you're taking the time to drink it and talk to someone or
Yes.
or whatever. So.
And one thing to mention, when you're served tea in the UK, in many places, they'll actually brew it in your own little single teapot. So obviously you can't take that with you and go. So the culture around sitting and having a cup of tea involves your teapot and letting it sit, letting it brew. It's just a different experience and a very enjoyable one.
It'd be like bringing like a French press to your table for your coffee.
Exactly.
Just,
Yeah.
Don't really see that. So number
I feel
3,
that.
we're still
I'm not a tea person, so there's not much that I can comment. I'm not a tea, coffee, any kind of hot drink or anything like that. It's not for me, so I can't really comment. I can say that the U.S. definitely is go, 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 very productivity-based culture, and so you don't got time to sit around and enjoy nothing. But I'm not a part of the tea, the coffee, the nothing hot culture. I need all my drinks cold. So let's move to number 3.
kind of talking about food, but more just into the service industry, and that is the tipping culture. I moved over to the US and I stood firm on resisting tipping as much as possible.
Good job. Good job.
First of all, I just didn't agree with it in terms of this person is doing the job they're paid to do and they're just doing it normally, not exceptionally. So I didn't see why. I did later understand or realize that in some of the professions in the US, tips are so expected that it's actually built into their taxes. So it's expected that a waitress is going to make X amount more money from tips. And so she's sort of pre-taxed on that amount. So if you don't pay her, she's getting taxed more than she makes.
And there's the wages for certain industries are quite low. Bartenders, waitresses. So yes, tipping makes a big difference to their ability to live. But things have gotten out of control in the US. And I don't feel that we should be paying their wages with 25% tips.
It's crazy.
Come at me.
Crazy.
I know. I don't find that right.
No,
We were
you're
talking
right.
about this, and it seems that, first of all, minimum wages in the US, certainly in California, have gone up. And so has the expected tip amount. When I moved over and we were living together, you would maybe tip someone like 10, 15%, maybe 20% if they're like
15.
exceptional and did a really good job. Annie now is under the impression that people are kind of expect almost 25% just baseline, which is
I think most
crazy.
people
20 to
expect
25.
20% as baseline and even then think, okay, but I did a good job, so at least 25% is what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and I just honestly don't agree with it. I think that the U.S. should increase the minimum wage more, and tipping should not be a part of wages, and it should go like the UK does. And you tip when someone is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, the minimum wage thing is a whole different discussion because obviously that drives prices up, and then, well, I can't tip on my £30 McDonald's meal because it's already so anyway. In the US, it's got to the point now as well that in certain places like little coffee shops and all this and other, they'll verbally ask you, do you want to add a tip or gratuity to that? Or they'll spin around their little tablet, which has, it's hard not to tip somebody because the only options are percentages and whatever. And if you want to not tip, you have to press like custom amount.
Zero. I will. No doubt about it.
My most hated place ever is a little place in Petaluma. It's a drive-through. I think it's the...
Don't name it.
I won't name it, but I should because I really don't agree with this. You drive up and they'll ask you to your face, would you like to tip? And then
Before they bring the little
before
card reader.
before they make your drink, before they do everything, and you don't even have your drink in your hand, so, and you don't see what's going on behind their little walls, so you have to tip, because I'm not going to take that chance.
The only people that work there are like attractive, like hippie kind of like girls. They're just like super smiley and really nice. And
But
I had no
still-
problem just being like, no, thank you.
I did have a problem. I can't do that. So I said, yes, I would like to tip, expecting that they'd then take my card, charge me, and then I'd get to type in the tip. No, I have to verbally tell
Oh,
them
yeah.
how much I want to tip them.
forgot about
And
that.
then they type it in before they make my drink.
So you're
It's
like,
so
it's
awkward.
like a double layer of embarrassment. First, like you're expected to say yes, and it's like, how much? Like, I don't know, like 10p, like $5, like I don't know.
So that I have a problem with. I think that's wrong. And like I said earlier, we should just go about no tipping and
Yes.
yes.
Another one really quick that hit me when we moved over, Annie was still in college, so we were going out to bars and stuff, and even if you just asked the bartender for a bottle of beer, and he or she turned around to the fridge, picked out the fridge and opened it, put it on there, they would expect at least
It's
$1
crazy.
to like
It's
as a
crazy.
tip. And if you didn't tip them, good luck trying to get a drink for the rest of the night. So yeah, over in Scotland, at least, it's not the norm. If you go to a restaurant, this was hard for Annie to comprehend, and she thought I was just being really rude, but it's not normal to leave a tip. I would
Yeah.
say if someone does an exceptional job or goes above and beyond, yeah, by all means, that's fantastic. Reward them for doing going the extra mile. But
Yeah.
no, you get the bill at the end of the day. That's it. Walk out without any shame or
So much better.
social punishment.
There you go.
So we would like to see that, and I think people in the U.S. are pushing back a little bit.
I do think
because it's
so.
gone so crazy.
It's getting ridiculous.
I can't think of a good example, but tipping anywhere there's a method of payment, they're trying to make you be allowed to tip or be able to tip, and you're like, no, I did this order online. Like nobody interacted with me, and now you want to tip for
Exactly.
just handing it over to me. Like
No
So
way.
yes.
No way.
we don't like that.
We don't like that. And on
Yeah.
to the next one. We'll ramble all day there.
The next one is
I hate it. I hate it. From a sense of I hate the fact that it is put on the customer to tip and pay these people's wages instead of us as Americans putting on these companies to pay these people livable wages. Now the company gets to save more money, and that's more money out of our consumer pockets. I swear, I used to really just, if I wanted to eat at like a restaurant, I'd order it to go. I'd order it through online, and I'd order it to go, because I hate you. I'm not gonna tip you for handing me my food. There's no way on earth. And yeah, there's an option to tip for everything now, and it's gotten to the point where it's ridiculous. But if I'm not sitting down in a restaurant and all that, I'm not tipping you. And you see all these examples on like freaking TikTok or all these other apps where like delivery drivers will go and DoorDash and like people food and bring people's food, and if the tip is not what was expected, they will like throw the food or like be like, I'm taking it back to the store. Just do so, and it's or just get in a fight with that person. It's like, bro, like I understand like you're doing this job because you need to get paid. Completely get it. Completely understand that. But you cannot get mad at people for not wanting to tip or tip a big amount. Like you can't be frustrated by that. It's not their job to do that. It's the company's job to pay you a wage that's fair, and that's who the anger should be directed at. Yes, but it's getting to the point where it's 20 to 25% now, and I can't stand tipping culture. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and like I shouldn't have to pay extra money on top of this already overpriced food. It's craziness.
is also about the shopping experience. And in the US, if you go into almost any shop, especially like a clothes shop though, you're first going to get greeted by someone, and then they're going to try and somewhat be your personal shopper and tell you about the sales, and if you need any help, I'm over here,
Yeah.
and they'll check in on you. In Scotland, you will be lucky if you get a hello,
Correct.
which is also fine with us. especially from a man's perspective, I'm usually going to shop to pick out the one thing I know I'm going to buy. So I don't need help and guidance and dressing and entertaining. And it's just, again, it's a lot in the US, and it's almost like a forced selling tactic, I feel.
Yes, in the US, I mean, a lot of companies have a mandate, they tell their employees, as part of working here, you need to greet each customer within 30 seconds of them coming in. I know that when I worked in restaurants, I had to have a drink to the table within 2 minutes of them coming. But for shopping in particular, just leave me alone. Leave me alone. Let me peruse the aisles. Let me find out, or come ask you if you have any sales. If I'm really that interested, I will ask you. Just please leave me alone in your stores. And I feel like most people in the US don't like being bombarded as soon as you walk in a store. You're like, oh no, please, I just want to look at this.
It also comes over quite often as disingenuous, because you know they're saying the same thing to if 5 people walking behind you, they're saying the exact same thing. And what might seem like a personal approach to begin with is often just like, oh, he or she's just a robot that's put on a good greeting voice. And,
that's put on a good greeting voice.
It's lost on me as well. So.
And I don't mind if you walk into a store, I'll keep this short, and someone says, oh, hi, let me know if you need anything. Fine, that's beautiful, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Beyond that, just no. So,
leave me alone.
Maternity.
I agree. Like, if I walk in, you say, hey, how you doing? You like, hey, these are the sales we're having today. I feel like you should have a poster on the wall, or they should be posted around the store. But if not, if you want to tell me to sell, that's fine. But don't continue asking me questions as I walk around. Like, I'm looking around. If I want anything, I'll let you know. If I need any help, I will let you know. Trust me. I'll let you. And so, I don't like being like, because it almost feels like you're pressured to buy something. And I don't know, it's weird. It's weird, and I don't like it at all. At places I go to that are like that, I don't enjoy. I like going into places where, they may greet you when you walk in, but they're going to leave you alone unless you ask for help. That's what I like.
Paternity leave is just done so much better over here. I know it's a much smaller country, so it's more feasible, but I feel the US is very lacking in this area. And
this is not a caveat to a big announcement, just so you know. We were talking to some of our friends who'd just done it, and they were like, are you trying to tell us something? Absolutely not.
Definitely not. We're done.
We have experienced maternity, paternity cover in the US. We have good friends that have had it in the UK, so we definitely wanted to mention it. Sorry, on you go.
Oh, that's fine. So there's some really great things about the maternity, paternity leave here. Off the bat, if you're working, you qualify for 52 weeks of maternity leave.
God dang!
You don't get paid the entire time. You can qualify for 39 weeks of pay, with the first 6 weeks being 90% of your pay. And then after that, it's a much lower reduced rate. But I believe that depending on where you work, they can supplement that income.
Yeah, it definitely does vary with your employer. But like Annie said, those are sort of the government issued numbers, and then compared to the US, you get like 6 weeks.
Zero guaranteed.
Yep.
And I think even within those 6 weeks, the percentages drop down.
Yep, and it very much depends on your employer as well.
I'm pretty sure like they're not required to give you leave, but I'm not. I guess I'm 50% sure, because I could be completely wrong. But they're not required. But a lot of places will give you that leave if you work for them for a while. But that's crazy. Like UK, 52 weeks, up to 39 weeks paid. May not be what you were getting used to getting paid, but still getting paid something. And getting to spend all that time at home with your child is absolutely invaluable. As the father of an 11-week-old, like, I can't imagine my wife not like having the time to sit and spend with him and raise him, and it's incredible. And then me doing YouTube, I also get to spend a ton of time with them. So I can't imagine like going straight back to work and just not being able to have that time with your child. It's just, shout out to the UK, man.
And the nice thing that I have to say that the UK does is paternity leave is only 2 weeks. But they give you the option to split your maternity leave with your
I
partner.
love that.
So you can have 6
I
months
love
maternity
that.
leave, and your partner can have 6 months.
Yeah.
And you can split it however you want. You can both go on at the same time, or one of you can go for the first 6 months, the other one can go for the next 6 months, however you see fit. And it's very similar rates, a slight difference, but in the grand scheme of things, you'll probably make about the same amount.
Yeah, which
That's
means
so awesome.
if the female is the main source of income, they can go back to the workforce sooner and still have their husband look after the child and not have to get a babysitter or arrange all that sort of stuff. So it just seems more caring and inclusive, I guess, and
Feasible.
understanding. And
Yes.
it might play into the whole sort of work-life balance thing that we've already talked about in some of our other videos. There just seems to be more of a good work-life balance here in the UK, whereas in the US it's, all right, you got 2 weeks of holiday, a little bit of time for maternity leave, and greet everybody at the door within 30 seconds.
This one's going to be a hot take, and it is slightly humor and just taking less offense in general. So the U.S. has become quite polarized, as you can see
Really?
from
I don't know.
recent elections. And with that, things are very tense, and people are sensitive about things that are near and dear to their heart, rightfully
Yes.
so.
Very sensitive.
And I appreciate that, but I also don't really appreciate cancel culture.
I feel
And
that.
I feel we've
I
come
feel
as a
that.
society to a point where anyone can get canceled at any moment
Yes.
for anything, problematic
Yes.
or not. Just if someone doesn't like you enough, they can find
Yeah.
a way to impact your world.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously we know that the stories and things we hear about are just the loudest people on the biggest platforms, but
Yeah.
it does represent kind of what's going on in the US at the moment. A lot of it does come down to their free speech and their Bill of Rights and Constitution and all that sort of thing that they're trying to defend, but it's gone so far that it doesn't seem like people can even take a minute to potentially think that there might be some merit to the other side or the
Yep.
person who's talking against them or whatever. And
Facts.
just the important issues, yes, take them seriously, but there's so much other things to worry about that
Yeah.
some of these topics that people are so hell-bent on just need to
And humor, UK humor is hilarious. If it was implemented in the
Oh,
US,
Lord.
people
Oh.
would lose their minds.
Yeah. Facts.
The humor
Facts.
would not be appreciated over there in the current climate.
Oh,
yeah.
And it's a shame because we need to laugh. Society
Yeah.
needs to laugh a little bit more and take things a little less seriously in certain contexts.
the dry sort of witty humor in the UK is, I love it, and it took Annie a bit
It's
getting
fun,
used
yeah.
to when we first got together. But even just over here, we're walking around and maybe the kids are acting up or doing something, and you'll get what might initially sound like a snarky comment from a random stranger, but then you turn around and see they've got a little cheeky smile on your face, and you know they're just being like joking around like, oh, I should really get those children under control. Please help. But yeah, just taking a minute, taking a pause, and sort of taking everything with a little grain of salt would be, I think, appreciated in the US, especially at this time. And just it'd be really interesting to see if some of that UK humor could go over there and be adopted. I think it'd be very interesting.
I think it would be great. I think it would make the US a better place, honestly. And people's reaction over here to humor is just, it's part of the whole experience.
Yeah.
Like, no one takes anything too serious.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
someone's bantering with you and giving you a hard time, it's because they like you typically.
Yes.
And
And then
I
they
wish
just-
there was a bit more of
You
that.
just give it back, and then you're kind of even, and
Yeah.
you go on your way, and you pour yourself a cup of tea, and you're still friends.
Yes.
Exactly. No big deal.
Yeah. All right.
Now I love some freaking UK humor. Yeah, it definitely will get canceled in America, and I'm not a fan of cancel culture. I do believe some people deserved to be canceled, like for certain actions. Like, yeah, you shouldn't. People shouldn't follow you. But I think it got to the point where it's just getting out of hand, and people were trying to cancel people for the smallest of reasons, or they were going back 15 and 20 years in their past and doing deep dives and finding every single little mistake. Like, I think at the end of the day, we're all humans, and if anybody put a microscope up to our entire lives and pick through it, we could all be canceled for some decision that we made down the line in one way or another. But yeah, it just feels like the country is very sensitive in a sense of everybody feels like they're right. Like everybody feels like the side that they're on is right, and if you say anything against it, then you get called all kinds of names. They try to obliterate you, try to destroy you instead of trying to, like he said, listen and hear if there's any merit to what you're saying. There's no listening going on. There's no listening or trying to understand going on. But yeah, UK humor, man, it is hilarious. I will say the banter, because I watched the UK video and I was like, I banter with my bros all the time. Like, we make fun of each other all the time. We clown each other. Like, we do that all the time. But then I show examples of UK banter and I was like, okay, we don't take it that far. I saw him taking it to a place where my jaw dropped and I was like, they say that to each other? And yeah, I was like, okay. UK banter and when me and my friends clown each other, there's a completely different level. UK banter is up here, and me and my friends clowning each other is probably like down here because they take it to the next level. But they know it's all jokes, like nobody gets offended or butt hurt by it. But yeah, you can't do that in the States.
Number 7, another one we've spoken about already, is just the walking culture here. We tried our best in the US to walk as much as we could. It's a bizarre one because the weather is more on your side there, but there's just fewer opportunities to walk in your everyday life. I mean, the last place we lived, we could only walk our boys to school, which is just down the road, or walk around our little subdivision. Anything beyond that, you had to drive.
Yes, exactly, because it was miles. And a single mile is fine to walk, but when you have multiple children, going over a single mile just to do a daily chore it can be a little bit of a trek.
Yeah, like walking 3 miles to the grocery store just to pick up a loaf of bread is a little excessive.
But that's the other thing. People here just open up their door and they just walk. They don't walk for a purpose. It's just to walk, and you just don't see that much.
Describing us like little robots, like time to walk.
No, just something that you don't get as much in the U.S. and seems a little bit odd from an outsider looking in, but it's something that I so appreciate over here, and I think anyone could benefit from it. Just getting outside, getting the fresh air, taking that moment to have time to yourself and to reflect. And people don't even have dogs. They just physically take themselves outside for a walk.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of it has to do with just the way the little towns and cities are made up. I mean, our tour of Edinburgh last week, we did that 99% on foot, and that's possible. You can walk into Edinburgh as well from outside, but in the US that's just often not possible. Towns and cities are separated usually by big freeways, so you have to at least drive to your location before you even have a chance of taking part in that walking culture. Another thing we've spoken about is the Right to Roam or Freedom to Roam Act. Beautiful piece of land out there, you can just go walk on it. In the US, you might see the double barrel of a shotgun if you just start walking on somebody's land. So yeah, some of that could be incorporated, that might help. But a lot of it does just comes down to the structure of the communities. So it'd be interesting if we have any viewers in the sort of New England area where there's lots of little towns and stuff like that. Maybe they have a different walking culture, or there's certain parts of the US that have this. Just where we lived, we tried our best, but oftentimes it just wasn't possible to walk as much as we do now in Scotland.
But I do think it is something that we can take from the UK, and if we just reframed our mindset slightly to not think that it's odd just to open your door and go for a walk, I think it would benefit many people.
Yep.
I feel that.
This is one thing that
I feel like, I think the UK walking culture is really awesome because it's always awesome to be able to kind of get out and exercise, and then for everything to just be in walking distance is nice, where you don't have to waste money on gas, where you don't have to waste money on a car note, where you don't have to waste money on insurance, where you don't have to, all of this, you can just get out and walk everywhere you need to go. So not only am I getting exercise by staying in shape, but I'm also saving a lot of money. There's a lot of benefits, I feel like, to the walking culture, where in the US it's built for cars. Like, you can't just walk everywhere. You literally need a vehicle.
that I love and brings me so much joy, and it's the care that people take in community spaces in the UK. And especially in our area of Scotland, I'm shocked by how well the town centers and communal spaces of neighborhoods, they just all are so beautiful and well looked after.
Yeah, they take pride in things like seasonal plantings of flowers
everywhere.
And then during certain times of years, there'll be little sort of knitted decorations just plopped around town. And that's not just in the town we live in, but in many towns around us as well. And we had no idea what it was, but it's just a group of volunteers that enjoy knitting or crocheting and making these things to make the town a more appealing, cute little place.
Christmas lights in all the local towns.
Yeah.
That's just something you might get here and there in the US, but not like it is here. And I think what makes a big difference is people actually volunteer many hours of their time to take pride and take care of these places. Whereas in the US, I don't see that as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, from my perspective, it might come down to the structure of where people live. Like, there's not as much opportunity to sort of be part of that little town center or city center as much. And maybe just the scale of the US towns and cities makes it harder. But yeah, it was something that we definitely noticed, and I don't know, it's just a really nice thing to have, and I don't know how the US can incorporate it, but it'd be so great if there was an element of it that could be sort of brought over there.
This point has
I think I would absolutely enjoy that. Like, that sense of community to me is very awesome, and I think it's very important, and I think it would be absolutely beneficial for the US.
made our lives exponentially better on a day-to-day basis.
And we've mentioned a few times, but it's worth mentioning again.
And just having the most basic school uniforms for elementary, well, all grade levels actually, is the best idea ever. It takes out so many different aspects of the day as far as logistics, trying to have clothes ready and trying to fit certain trends. There's just none of that.
No.
It's so nice.
Yeah, I grew up wearing a school uniform every day. Annie did not. And the stories she would tell of, like, trying to make sure you're wearing this, that, and the other, or how's this going to look, or this, that.
Yeah.
I remember we'd have a few times a year, like wear your own clothes day for charity. Essentially, you bring in a couple pounds and you could wear your clothes. And it was horrible. I was like, gotta make impression, gotta wear this, gotta wear that. Oh, like, and it just, especially for kids that age, to not have to think about it. Everyone's on the same playing
Taking
field.
out the pressure.
You can get the majority of school uniforms at very cheap stores or very expensive stores, and they pretty much all look the same. And it's a no-brainer, really. And especially in the US with places like Walmart and that, it'd be so much cheaper for people to have school uniforms than to try and keep their kids clothed. I mean,
in trends.
Yeah, I mean, the state that some of the uniforms come home in with our boys, I don't know how people keep up with the additional laundry of the clothes they wear to school plus the clothes they do everything else in. So complete no-brainer. It'd be very interesting if anyone had any insight into why the US does not adopt that, especially with the US schooling being so into their, like, community spirit and
I honestly think it would be so much more affordable for many families to just buy or to be able to get a polo shirt and whatever slacks.
Shorts, trousers, and then a little jumper or jacket or something.
Because we can get ours for under £5 for each if you go to Tesco at the right time of year. Or many schools will have end of year, you trade in and then get the next size up.
Just a free swap.
Really?
Exactly, free
You
swaps.
don't even need to swap things. You can just go and people will donate it, and then if you need a size, you just take it, and the expectation is when you grow out of that, you donate it back. And especially getting started here, it was great for us to be like, well, what does uniform actually look like? Oh, here's a bunch that have been worn before. We know that works. Plunk them in that and figure out what we need. So it's a great one. The kids love it. You can see which kids go to which school. They just look kind of nice and smart, and it's not like a necktie and button-up shirts. It's just
Yeah, I'm talking basic, just everyone, put them in the same playing field and go from there. I think it would take out so much stress for many families and make clothing more affordable.
Yeah.
So
the last one, it's just
I feel like I like where they're coming from on that. I do think there will be pushback in the U.S. due to a sense of like, I guess kids wanting to maybe express themselves in clothes or fashion or style being one of the ways that they do that, and then taking that away into like making everyone like uniform, making everyone wear the same thing. So I think there'd be pushback against it. In my school, I guess we had a uniform code. It wasn't necessarily uniform, but it was like it was uniforms to a lesser extent, to where it was like, this is what you're allowed to wear: khaki or black pants, or shorts. These are the colors you're allowed to wear: white, red, or black. Short sleeve or long sleeve, button up. No hoodies, no. And so it was like, they gave us a uniform code, and we had to work within that code. You were required to have a belt. You were required so many things, and I absolutely hated it all throughout high school. Like, because I just wanted to come to school in like basketball shorts and a t-shirt, something I was just comfortable in. But as soon as I graduated, they got rid of it, which sucked. Then kids got to wear whatever they want, and it was like, bro, really? You literally only did it for the 4 years I was in high school. It was the stupidest thing, and it upset me. But I think school uniforms can be a good idea, 100%. I just don't think it will happen here, like nationwide in the U.S. Maybe like certain school districts or certain might adopt it, but nationwide, I don't think it would be adopted.
small point, we're just going to touch on it briefly, is gun control. Obviously a huge thing in the US, and obviously we love over here because there is such strict gun control, and it's just something you don't have to worry about, honestly. There are still gun crimes, but not to the extent they are in the US, or gun accidents, unfortunately, there are in the US. And it's just, it just adds so much to the overall safety of sense of peace of where you live, especially with children. And especially for me, coming from a law enforcement background in the US, that was something that was on my mind a lot and on my hip every day. So it's not something I miss, and I don't know how to change it in the US or if it will ever change, but it's nice over here.
yes. And that's one thing, of course, we feel the U.S. would benefit from if there were stricter gun laws, if there wasn't so many mass casualties every single year.
Look at that, 2020 mass shootings, 585, 596, 695. It's ridiculous. In the UK, 3, 2, 1. Wow.
Because of people getting guns in the wrong hands, and it's just an awful thing to have to think about, especially as a parent, and it just doesn't even weigh on my mind anymore, being over here. And I know there's still a chance, but
little road rage incidents in either country, like, you don't have to worry if that person might or might not have a weapon. Here we kind of live near farmers' fields, and farmers are one of the people who are allowed to have guns for specific reasons, but then again, that's for a job or specific reason. And you'll sometimes hear gunshots in the distance here. I don't know if you've heard that, like out in the farmers' fields. And whereas in the US, I might be on high alert. Here I'm just like, la la la, that's just a farmer using his shotgun for whatever. And it's just off my mind and off our minds. And for that reason alone, especially with kids, whatever the US solution might be, I think
we're on board.
Tending towards that would only be a good thing. So, comments will be interesting on this one, but it's a huge topic, and
these are the 10 things, though, that we personally feel would make the U.S. a much better place. Like you mentioned, we loved our lives over there. We're so grateful for all the opportunities we had in the U.S., and if we hadn't moved over, we still would have been happy. But life would be better with these 10 things.
Yeah,
I feel that.
And is there scope for video the other way, or do we not broach that topic?
We can do a video the other way. I think there was a few things.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, those are ours. as usual, like, subscribe. We can't wait to read the comments. Like I said before, we do try and get through every single comment and post a reply. So apologies if we're a little bit behind. We're getting a few more comments these days, which is a good problem to have. Check out some of our other videos, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye.
Great video. Number 10, I do believe the gun laws do need to be stricter as well. The control needs to be stricter. Because you saw the number of mass shootings, and that's just absolutely ridiculous. And it's sad and painful, and you just hate to hear about it. You just hate to hear about it. But that's all we have. If you guys enjoyed, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and check out the next one. I'll see y'all next time.